Hi guys, I'm Lesia, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share with you the books that I read in December since I didn't have the time to do a wrap-up, so let's get started. A book that added suddenly on my TBR in December was Inferno by Dan Brown, and that was due to the fact that the movie was going out of the cinemas and I wanted to see it, and it was my only chance to read the book prior to the movie, and I actually went after it and I wanted to compare them, so I'll also share my thoughts on that subject. Dan Brown is famous for his intellectual and kind of mysterious novels, starting with The Da Vinci's Code, which I didn't read because I couldn't really get through it as a child, and I still don't think that I would be quite interested in the book. But I picked up Dan Brown's Inferno because it's set in Italy, and also because I wanted to see the movie. Basically, that was the only reason I needed. I also wanted to give Dan Brown a try, and I ended up feeling quite mediocre about this book, so it could be a bit of a rant on this subject. The book follows a pretty common storyline that follows Robert Langdon, Dan Brown's character. The book starts with Robert Langdon waking up in the middle of the hospital in Florence without any recollection of how he got there or why, and so without the memory of his previous 2 days of his life, he's starting to get involved in the mystery surrounding these circumstances, and it is especially an urgent mystery as he discovers that the police force and all kinds of hired men-at-arms are chasing after him as he escapes through the city with a doctor companion, Sienna. The book is quite long and it's doing its best to be fast-paced, yet even so it wasn't a very fast read for me, mostly because when Dan tries to describe Florence and all the architectural wonders and to set the mood and describe the setting, he's going a bit too far. Every other chapter is starting with the same lengthy passage about how the streets looked, how it was, and it's kind of a stretched out introduction to the history behind Florence and history behind every location that Robert Langdon is facing, and that was a part of the book that I was constantly tiring of. I was feeling myself getting pulled out of the story because I got the city was beautiful, I got it had lots of historical challenging background and lots of historical detail, but I just wish that we would get to the point already. And the reason why this book felt so off to me was also because Sienna was kind of used as a plot device, and while she is a very interesting character, in this book she was mostly finishing Robert Langdon's thoughts, and that is something that I had no appreciation for because it was always feeling like this device to kind of complete his sentences, make him appear kind of smart, and also connect the inner monologue of the character with what's happening from the outside. The heroes in this book are trying to solve a puzzle that is leading to a virus that is threatening all of humankind, and the virus is meant to solve the only problem that is deemed most important for the humankind as such, the danger of overpopulation. And this is a subject that is very, very real and feels very important right now, because if the numbers are correct, then indeed the Earth cannot take much more expansion of the humankind, and unless something comes along that diminishes the numbers quite drastically, humankind is destined to die out. And in fact, the ending of the book was one of the points that I really liked about the book, the fact that Dan Brown has kind of found an elegant solution, but at the same time has left this question of morals standing before us, and we are left wondering whether this solution is actually something moral or immoral, whether it was avoidable or not. And sadly, that's the fact that was taken out of the movie, and that's the deviation from the book that hurt me most of all. I didn't like the movie, I didn't like the way the story was told, and I didn't really sympathize with any of the heroes, and certain liberties were taken with the script, as it usually happens. The ending of the book was completely transformed into the usual blockbuster setting that any other Hollywood movie can boast, and I don't think they did justice to Dan Brown's idea of Inferno, which is why I sadly cannot say anything good about the movie, but I can say that Dan Brown's book poses an interesting question, an elegant solution, and a lot of material for thought. Next on, I'd like to talk to you about Mr. Fox by Helen Oyeyemi. This is a book that first caught my eye in a totally different cover, and I got to say that apart from this one, all the executions of the covers are very appealing to me, so I really recommend you check out another edition of this book. And basically what caught my eye is that the book starts with a monologue between Mr. Fox and Miss Fox, his imaginary friend, his concoction of a woman. Mr. Fox is a writer, and he's writing stories that are constantly ending with women dying or main protagonists killing the women in the stories. And his imaginary friend or imaginary companion, Miss Fox, appears before him to kind of make himself aware of what is going on in his stories, and she's trying to make him a kinder and better person. The book has been inspired by the history of the Bluebeard tale, which follows the story of a woman who marries Bluebeard and then is cautioned not to open this one room inside of a big mansion where she's living, and when her husband, the Bluebeard, is absent, she's opening this room only to find the previous wives of this man dead and dismembered. I wanna read you a little excerpt from the beginning of the book, from their witty dialogue, which really drew me to the book in the first place. "Go ahead and laugh, hurt my feelings, what do you care?" I said mournfully, enjoying myself. "Oh, your feelings. Well, let's go further in, Mr. Fox. Would you love me if I were your husband and you were my wife?" This is dumb. "Would you though?" "Well, yes, I could see that working out." "Would you love me if we were both men?" I guess so. If we were both women?" "Sure. If I were a witch?" "You're enchanting enough as it is." "If you were my mother?" "No more," I said. "I'm crazy about you, okay?" So I hope you see what I'm talking about when I say this book is very magical in the non-magic sense. It's all about the words that are spoken and the dialogue and the witticism, and this is why I definitely recommend it. It was a 4-star read for me and I quite enjoyed it. Let's move on to Six of Crows, which I read in December by Leigh Bardugo. You probably heard everyone talking about this book, and I couldn't avoid picking this duology as soon as the September box set came out. I bought this book and The Crooked Kingdom as they were in the same set, and I finished them both, but I'm only going to be talking about Six of Crows for those who don't know it or just want to hear my opinion. I haven't read the Grisha trilogy before that, and I can't say I regret it. Although it would give me more details about the world as a whole, the setting of the book is in the city of Ketterdam, which I don't believe was quite a big of a setting in the Grisha trilogy. And this is a book that, as many of the people probably would tell you, is telling a story of an unlikely gathering trying to make their way into a prison and find something in that prison, very valuable object or person, something that was being guarded and very important so that they could make off and get paid and basically be their own men. Yet, as people said, the heist itself doesn't start until the middle of the book, so if you really want to dive into it, it's not really about that so much as about getting to know the characters. There are multiple perspectives on the book, and that's a part that I really enjoyed because Leigh Bardugo is a master of concealing elements of the story to make it more interesting to read. And so basically we're switching from one person to the other, and as we're doing the slalom of switching in different situations, we're missing out on key details that are later revealed to us as events happen, and that's the most delightful thing ever. Because we're following a perspective of one of the narrators at the time, we don't quite get all the intricacies of the plot until very much later, and then it pays off in such a grand way that you get so much enjoyment out of this book. And I've got to say that I love this book. I love the way that the world was built. It was heavily influenced by Russian folklore, although there are some questionable things that I might say about that, but also I feel like it has been influenced a bit with the German lore and the Dutch lore. It's set in the city of Ketterdam, which is kind of this bustling city, but a part of it is a dark, dark hole of thieves and crooks, and another one is where the rich men live. And so the story follows Kaz, who I absolutely love. Kaz is very morally gray as a character. He's very questionable. He's making decisions that are cruel, that are not to be taken lightly, yet he does this with an impeccable facade. And this is something that I liked about the creation of the character, that Lee was able to make someone so ruthless into someone so amazing a character, someone who you're sympathetic with despite your best feelings or despite your best intentions to stay away from him. You just can't, you just need more. And of course there are Matthias and Nina and Wylan and Inej, but one of the best characters of the series is definitely Jesper. Jesper is an amazing sharpshooter, but what is even better, he has this amazing sense of humor. He will make you giggle when you get attached to all the other characters. He makes funny retorts, remarks, and he has such a wonderful soul inside him that I can't help but feel for him so badly. I think I'm gonna talk more about my impression with The Crooked Kingdom and the series as a whole as a spoiler video, so stay tuned for that and let me know in the comments whether you want to hear my thoughts on that. And we're moving on to the last book. The last book in this video is The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre. It's following a girl called Dina who is locked inside her own apartment because she has this phobia that if she goes out and lives a regular human life, she might actually not be able to hold herself back from her urge to kill people. This stems from her very tragic past, which is later revealed in the book, but so far Dina is making her living as a cam girl, and that's the strongest part of this book. As far as I feel, the first half I really quite enjoyed, and that was due to the fact that we are shown the life of a cam girl in all gross and very gritty details, so it's an adult book, so if you're not 18, I don't know, it very much depends on your level of maturity, but I would better postpone it because she's talking about perverts, about people with bad intentions, about the sexual aspect of it, and so it's better not to go into it if you're not prepared for this kind of mature content. But that was the part that I liked the most because we get an insider look into an industry that is quite closed to an outsider. Sadly, I gave this book only 3 stars because there was a very, very awkward romance in this book which I was definitely not on board with. Basically, Dina is trying to keep herself as far away from human interaction as possible. But in fact, she is tempted sometimes, and in this book, one of her interactions is leading to a very dangerous situation, which kind of is also provocative, but also very dangerous because Dina almost isn't able to hold herself back from murder. And the fact that this is skimmed in the rest of the book and everything is deemed to be fine just because the one that she has tried or attempted to kill was physically stronger than her, it is just not fair that this fact was overlooked and that the romance made light of the whole situation. Dina has an illness and Dina is not getting the treatment that she needs in this book, and therefore her actions are obviously a result of the trauma that she's lived. But despite that, the behavior that she's showing is not lighthearted enough for this book to be considered a happy ending. I know there will be a second installment, however, the way that the first book ended, I wish that the author did her best to wrap up that book effectively, so I'm not gonna be reading the second one. But if you want to take a peek into the world of a cam girl, I would advise to read this book, definitely, and it is a very honest view on the whole situation, so I definitely advise this book for you guys who want a little foray into that industry. So that was it for this video, guys. Let me know whether you read any of these books and whether you share my opinions of them or maybe they differ, and I'll be happy to see you in my next video. January is flying by, I'm having the best reading month so far, and so far in this year, obviously. And anyway, guys, thank you very much for liking this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel below if you like this video. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!